Hello, and welcome to Talks on Docs, a documentary review podcast where the co-hosts and guests discuss, review, and give recommendations on any and all types of documentaries. For this episode, Sean's selection is Netflix, Sustainable. HB's selection is Prime, IMAX, NASCAR. And Sturdy's selection is Tell Me Who I Am, Netflix.
Buenos dias.
Hello,
Gentlemen.
Sean. Hello, HB.
You don't have to restart Skype or anything today?
Actually, I did, but I'm trying to keep my cool.
Any assistance in doing that?
It was working beautifully. I was like, oh, thank you so much. They didn't do any updates or anything. And I went to go hit call, and it like rang once, and then the whole thing froze up. Everything else was working just fine except for Skype. So, Skype has not let me down with always being a problem. So how's everybody's Thanksgiving?
Good. Busy. My son's birthday is the 29th today, so...
So you always have a busy week. Oh, well, I guess it depends on when Thanksgiving falls on.
Yeah.
So this one was busy for you.
Yeah, it was. It was a busy couple days. Thankfully, Grandma led Thanksgiving festivities at her house, so...
We had a pretty relaxing one around our house.
Good.
We took pictures of the house interior, which is always fun.
The old one?
Well, yeah, the current one, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Steph taught the girls how to make a Thanksgiving dinner, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Everybody took a dish and an appetizer and everything, so...
Wow.
Did it come out good?
Oh, it's great. Yeah. Yeah, we made the old-fashioned green bean casserole, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You know, dump out of the can. And
Cream of mushroom?
Yeah, cream of mushroom and a can of green beans and some fried onions.
Was it organic green beans?
It was a Jolly Green Giant, I believe.
Nice.
It was not sustainable, I would not guess.
Hey, firm.
Right. You have Steph. I mean, she's like a locally famous chef as a wife cooking your Thanksgiving dinner. So,
Has she ever done a turducken?
No, we've never tried the turducken. I don't even think she did it in a restaurant. It doesn't really enhance the flavor of any of the items to do it. So
Strikes me as a little chewy.
yeah, we did make a pie cakin once. You guys ever had a pie cakin?
No. Do tell.
It's where you make a pie inside a cake. And so when you cut into it, my cousin is or my wife's cousin is a baker.
Mm-hmm.
And so she made it was like a raspberry pie with a chocolate cake around it.
Yeah.
So good.
That does sound good.
So do you have to undercook the pie, I guess, or is it done when it goes into the batter?
The pie was done, and then basically she made it was more of like a brownie than a chocolate cake. So basically you had brownie and then raspberry tart and then brownie. So the brownie cooks pretty quick. By the time it gets to the middle, then you just pull it before it gets down and starts cooking the pie anymore. But yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
That does sound good.
Awesome.
How about yours, HB? What was your Thanksgiving like?
Grandma did, I don't know, she always does her best, but she was pretty stressed this year. I guess she had to work, and so Grandpa did most of the cooking. We had a good old turkey, and she made this corn casserole thing, which turned out Sarah wasn't a super fan of, and I was like taking seconds and thirds of. And yeah, just standard fare. She makes this concoction that I just gotten off work, so I hadn't eaten much, and I was trying to hustle out of there. So I get to her house, and Sarah's not there yet. Nothing's on the table, and Grandma's like cooking, and
Mm.
it's cream cheese. So it's like a I don't know 4-layer dip. And if you don't like shrimp, I guess is a problem. But it's
Right.
you take cream cheese as a bottom layer, and then there's then there's like shrimp, they're like your little baby shrimps,
Right.
and then some sort of tomato-based salsa type thing.
All right.
It wasn't spicy or anything, but it was tomatoey. And then and then some cheese, some shredded cheese, and I think that's about it. And I don't know, it works. It sounds disgusting, but I was
Never
like,
heard of it.
I was like wolfing it down by like the cracker full.
Wow.
So I don't know if it's the second year she's done it, and it's kind of crazy, but I'm the only one that eats it, I think. But I dig it. And then she's like, "Do you want to take it home?" I'm like, I don't think it'll be the same tomorrow in the fridge.
Yeah.
Stinky shrimp in the fridge with cream cheese. Yeah, who would eat that?
No.
What about you, Sturdy? How was your Thanksgiving fare?
I'm gonna do Thanksgiving myself next year.
just yourself.
I'm gonna cook it. I'm gonna do it all.
Oh, gotcha.
To be nice, I'll say that I'll be doing Thanksgiving next year.
Didn't go so well, huh?
Apparently there was a lemon theme going on this year, or at our dinner, which I'm not a fan of. But apparently the turkey was based in and cooked in and seasoned with all kinds of lemon. It was basically a lemon herb base for the turkey. I'm sorry, did I say chicken earlier? I don't know.
No.
All right, turkey. And then dessert, which is the winner for me, was some lemon tart cake thing, and it tasted like which I was not excited about whatsoever, because every bite was like you might as well have been taking a handful of Skittles, of lemon flavored Skittles, and chewing on that. And yeah, this was one of the cakes that the father-in-law had ordered online, and he actually has two of them because one of them got damaged or something. So, in one of the stellar styrofoam boxes that we receive every once in a while. So,
He was trying to help you out.
yeah, I know, right? But yeah, it was that, green beans and mashed potatoes. So it's like none of my side of the family tradition stuff, but me growing up as a kid, so Thanksgiving was totally different because it was very how should I put it? So yeah, Southern, white, conservative type of Thanksgiving family gathering, to where like the men didn't do anything all day and women slaved in the kitchen and got everything ready, and it was a full-on spread. It's multiple desserts, multiple meats, proteins, and all kinds of different dishes and stuff. And it was like a multi-day event. It wasn't just like, okay, throw everything together in one day kind of ordeal. So
Really?
but that's how I grew up as a kid in the South, with my with my mom's side of the family.
And your liberated wife didn't go for that?
Right. Well, she never has. I mean, my mom is every once in a while has brought over Jen's actually cooked it as well too, or baked it, I should say, the Southern red velvet cake, and that's always been like one of my favorites, or staple in the traditional family desserts. But we didn't even have that. We had this weird lemon Skittle cake thing.
You sound pretty fired up about this.
I'm trying to play nice. So, and also I've been sick, so maybe that's half of it. So you could probably still hear it in my throat, but I've been coughing like crazy.
Well, we celebrated the post-Thanksgiving with Mexican food, because that was what my 7-year-old wanted for his
For his birthday?
birthday dinner. So we went to El Adobe, if anybody's been.
Oh, nice, in Midtown.
Oh yeah, it's our favorite Mexican joint in town. We haven't found one we like better. So Sarah might be a one margarita kind of gal. I mean, I'm pounding too and looking at this bottle of wine still. But yeah. Deep fried ice cream and the whole fare. So.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I was just thinking. So, any of you that live outside of the United States and don't know what Thanksgiving is, that's an American tradition of when we were graciously gifted with this country by the Native Americans.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's
right,
how.
Yeah,
so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. I have some friends on Instagram, formerly known as high school buddies, that harshly disagree.
Yes, I know, right? Nowadays.
Yeah.
We'll be surprised if the millennials let us have Thanksgiving after the next couple of years, or if it'll be one of those holidays that's thrown off to the side, or it'll just be the family weekend dinner kind of thing. They'll take the Thanksgiving out of it, right?
Yeah, why's everything got to just be, bastardized, I mean, in the end, it's just a reason to get together and eat too much and watch football and hang out with your family and realize why you don't hang out more often.
Right.
Exactly, right.
And realize why you don't hang out. That's good.
Yeah.
Did you guys do any Black Friday shopping?
Negative.
No.
I used to have a Black Friday tradition of going out to Pyramid, but then I got kids, so. But I figured that was the farthest I could get from any of the Black Friday craziness. I'd go out and fish.
Nice.
Did you?
Jen did a little this morning. She always has. It's nice because it gives her some kind of like one-on-one time with the older girls. And she does actually like really hunt out the good deals and stuff, and saves quite a bit on like gifts and stuff that she's been thinking about all year long. But no, I don't go out, and me and Walmart have some issues right now. There are a bunch of racists over at Walmart.
Oh dear.
So yeah, I went into Walmart, and well, first of all, for some reason they just want to treat you like a criminal all the time now at Walmart. Have I told you guys about the whole baby food thing?
No.
No.
Yeah, baby formula. I'm so thankful we don't have to get that anymore. So we've been getting baby formula for the little girl that we've been fostering and hopefully will adopt. And so now they have baby formula behind lock and key at Walmart. So every time you show up, you have to ring their little bell and wait about 15 minutes for somebody to come and lock it, and then treat you like a criminal because you're going to steal all the baby formula and walk out the door. And on top of it, like, you cannot do any more shopping after you get the baby formula. You have to go directly to the front counter and buy it right then and there in front of them.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because so many criminals, so many crooks, I guess baby formula was an easy thing to rip off. So they'd rip it off and then bring it back to Walmart and change it in for $20 because it's a small item, big ticket price. So now anybody who actually wants to actually feed their baby gets treated like a criminal.
Do you have to have proof of baby?
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. And so I've always had an issue with that, and they were like, well, one time I got a little snippy with one of the girls. So I was like, this is just ridiculous. It's like, why do you guys have to treat everybody like criminals now because they want baby formula? It's like, there's 1,000 other things here that you guys should be protecting other than baby formula. If anything that you guys should let people walk out the door with is baby formula so that people's babies don't freaking starve to death, because they can't afford it, And she's like, well, you don't have to shop it here. And I was like, well, actually, I kind of do because I do my shopping at night and so on and so forth, and you guys are the only shop in town that is open this late. So, but anyways, and then I ran into another issue with Walmart. Apparently, their scanners and their cameras, you know how they do all the self-checkout thing now?
Yeah.
So they have those cameras that are above the scanners that take pictures and watch like everything that you're doing. Well, I went to go check out some bananas, and it kept on dinging that I was stealing more bananas than I was putting on the scale, because you like scan the bananas and then it asks you to weigh it, and then you let them sit there and weigh it, and then you grab, and then after it weighs it, it registers, and then you grab the bananas and bag them. Well, the machine, the cameras think that my fingers are bananas. So when I pick up the bananas, it thinks I'm adding bananas and putting them in to the bag. I'm dead serious, dude. I was like, what's going on? I was like, I'm just trying to bag the bananas. And she's like, well, it's picking up your fingers. I was like, my fingers? She's like, yeah, the machine thinks your fingers are bananas. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Use?
I know, right?
Now, we have these banana tongs, sir. Please use banana tongs.
Right. So my fat, white, kind of yellowish toned fingers are now bananas to Walmart's security camera system.
Maybe you need to get not ripe bananas.
Right, the green ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And it was like literally like she saw that I had multiple bunches of bananas. And so I did the first one. She comes over, she clears it out, I bag it. She walks away immediately. I was like, oh, great, it's going to happen again. Sure enough, 2 more times. Thing picks it up as me stealing bananas. So
I think there's very few things that enrage me more than the self-checkout. I don't know why it is. I mean, I actually won't use them at Lowe's and Home Depot anymore because it's just...
Really?
I went to Lowe's one time, and I was getting all these iron pipe fittings because I was making these lights for my backyard. Long story. Anyway, so I bought, I think I had 35 different fittings, these little 1/2-inch black iron pipe fittings.
Mm-hmm.
And so I scan the first one and go to put it in the bag, and it's too light for it to pick it up on the sensor that I had put it in the bag. And so there's these two cashiers that are standing there BSing instead of, helping all the customers. And he's literally standing 3 feet from me. Like, I could have slapped him.
right.
and so he goes, well, did you put it in the bag? Yeah, I put it in the bag. It's in the, look, there's only one thing in the bag, the one thing I scanned. And so, okay, so he clears it, and I take the next one, and I scan it, and I go to put it in the bag, and it still doesn't read it.
Yeah.
And they're talking again. And they don't even pay attention to me.
Yep.
And so I was like, after the third one, and it still didn't scan, and neither one of those two jackasses walked over and helped me, I just said, fine. I said,
done.
And I kind of flipped out a little bit. And I told him, you know why nobody comes to your fucking store? Because you fucking assholes won't pay attention to anything. I'm never coming back to your fucking store. Take all these fucking parts and go put them back yourself.
Oh, yes, dude.
I lost it.
Wow.
Oh,
what a little falling. Wow.
But yeah, there's really nothing that ticks me off more than the self-checkout not working.
Well, it's even better when you got kids in tow and they're like, jumping on the weigh scale bag area.
Oh, yes.
And you're just doing fine. You haven't even rang anything up, or you're between things, and the next thing you know, it's going crazy, and you look down, your kid's like,
Yep.
doing snow angels on the scale next to your bag is or something. Can I get off?
Unauthorized item on scale. Unauthorized item on scale.
Yeah, unexpected item in bagging area. Unexpected item in bagging area. Yeah, I look over. I'm like, come on, just wave it through. Just approve everything. Come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We are Talks on Docs. We are your co-hosts. I am Sturdy.
I'm HP.
And I'm Sean.
All right, you guys ready to go into our Apple Podcast ratings and reviews, emails, social medias, and corrections?
Oh boy,
yes.
Oh boy.
Time to give a little thanks and appreciation for the emails and Apple Podcast reviews. We didn't get anything else other than a couple of small comments on Facebook, but I appreciate those as well too. Adam Templeman. He liked, I guess this is one of the racers in my doc, Breaking 2. I can't pronounce the runner's name. Kipchoge? Was that one of the racers?
I don't recall choking in your name.
What?
I don't recall that name exactly
Kipchoge?
now.
No? Alright. Well, it says he's a machine. So the only thing I could think of was that was one of the runners. So I don't know. Maybe that was one of the runners.
That was the
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
the
yeah.
one that the guy that actually came 1 minute or something from
Oh,
making
okay.
it.
Yeah, was that his last name? I don't remember. So, thanks, Adam.
Thanks for watching.
And then we got another Facebook post from John Sculio. Man, I'm so bad with names.
Shulo.
Shula is.
Shulo. It's one of my army buddies. Or
Oh,
it's his
okay.
dad. It's one of my
Shula.
army buddies' dads.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, at least somebody knows how to pronounce their last name. John Shula. So he says, I know this is an older post, but one of the stores I ran in Pittsburgh was actually in the neighborhood where Fred Rogers lived. He stopped by fairly often. He was a kind in real life as he was on the show. His death was a great loss to this world. And then Sean, you replied back, and then John replied back as well too. Pittsburghs are very proud he was one of us. The city could have used him after the last year's massacre at the synagogue. Oh yeah, okay. He lived within a few blocks of the tragedy. Wow, well, that's kind of a sad note, but thank you very much, John, for leaving comments on our Facebook. We greatly appreciate that. And Sean, thank you for reaching back and replying back to him. So he's the father of one of your army buddies.
Yeah, one of my army buddies from Germany, John. Mikey is my army buddy. John
okay.
came out and saw us in Germany when we were there. I met him then, and
Nice.
he's always kind of treated me as another son. So
Cool.
he actually sends presents to my girls all the time. So he's a good guy, real good guy.
Very
Thanks, John,
nice.
for the comment.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate that. That's all we have for our Apple Podcast ratings and reviews, emails, social medias, and corrections. Send them some corrections, people. Find out where we're wrong. Tell us your experiences of being racially profiled at Walmart, like I am. I'd like to read those. Or your experiences with scanning machines and such at like Home Depot and so on and so forth. All right, let's go ahead and go into our selections for next week.
During the next section, the co-hosts keep it fresh and spoiler-free as they announce their selections for next week's podcast.
All right, Sean, let's go ahead and start with your selection for next week.
My selection is The Great Hack on Netflix. Data, arguably the world's most valuable asset, is being weaponized to wage cultural and political wars. The dark world of data exploitation is uncovered through the unpredictable personal journeys of players on different sides of the explosive Cambridge Analytica Facebook data story. It's 113 minutes, came out July 24th of 2019. Directed by Jahan Nujaim. Something like that. Anyway. But it's got a 87% tomato meter and a 63% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.0 on IMDb.
So, is this kind of like coming from everything that's going on with the President Trump investigations and stuff?
This is more, it has a little bit to do with that. I think it more has to do with just data mining itself. You know, like,
Right.
you know how you'll be sitting around with a group of friends talking about, anything, socks. And the next thing you know, your Facebook feed is filled with socks.
Right.
I think that's the general idea of what this is. But, I think we've all experienced that. So I thought it would be a little interesting. And it's got pretty decent scores. So
Awesome. I'll go ahead and go with mine. Mine is going to be on Amazon Prime. It's called Chris Claremont. Do either of you guys know who Chris Claremont is?
Negative.
no.
You guys are terrible. No. He's a comic book writer. And so the entire title is Chris Claremont's X-Men. Chris Claremont came to Marvel as a young man, extremely young. I think he was like 13 or something like that. And yeah, he was assigned to a book that no one else wanted, a book on the brink of cancellation, X-Men. Over the next 17 years, his work on the title turned into the biggest franchise in comic book history. 40 years later, his work has been adopted into 10 films, 3 TV series, countless video games, countless cartoons as well. I know that. And countless games, and became a part of our cultural mythology. It's got 4.5 out of 5 stars on the Amazon Prime rating system, and a 6.3 documentary, or I'm sorry, 6.3 score on IMDb. And it's directed by Patrick Meanley, who's also known for House of Demons in 2018, The Viral Man in 2012, The Perfect Dose in 2006, and The Third Age 2009 to 2013, none of which I know any of those.
Ditto.
Right.
I wondered when you were going to pull out a comic book doc.
Yeah.
When did you last? You haven't done a comic doc yet, have you?
Well, I think we did the Bill Finger one.
Yeah.
Did we do?
Wasn't that yours though, Sean?
No, that was
No.
that was in the first half of Talks on Docs. I think I picked the Bill Finger one and covered that one. I think because I think I had Joe Prime on for that one because he actually interviewed the daughter of Bill Finger on their podcast.
Gotcha.
So yeah, once again, Amazon Prime, Chris Claremont, and it's Claremont, X-Men. HB, what do you have?
I have Written on Water. It's on Amazon Prime. It's from 2016, directed by Mary Lisa Trujillo. Synopsis of this is Written on Water focuses on the Ogallala Aquifer and examines the conflicts, politics, economics, and groundwater depletion in the High Plains region. The aquifer supports over 1/5 of the grain, beef, and cotton of the U.S. agricultural economy, and over 80% of the drinking water in this region. However, the Rocky Mountain waters that fed the Ogallala aquifer
Ogallala.
are not being replenished. So, yeah, Sean, I figured you'd know where I got the idea for this one.
Yeah.
As soon as they mentioned that near doc this week, that immediately piqued my attention. I don't know if it's just because of where we live and water and all that. It's always been an interest of mine and an amazement of mine when people have no water and they're just like staring at it and thinking they have water, like Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I don't get why people can't see the writing on the wall, and we can't make water very easily unless you have a small desalinization plant in your back pocket.
Right.
So,
you go ahead and
it's
invent that. You go invent that, and we'll be
the
millionaires.
pocket desalinizator,
Yes.
Yeah.
2000.
We'll be billionaires.
Yeah. So yeah, this seems interesting to me. I had no idea about this Ogallala aquifer until I heard it, and I actually have seen your doc before I watched it this week, but I heard him talk about it this time. So it seems pretty interesting and pretty important, I think.
Yeah, that's the water for the entire Great Plains. It feeds all the way down into Texas.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So yeah, this will be interesting. I'll be interested to see this one.
And on that same subject, I was talking to Craig. He lives out in the old Reno area, and apparently there's absolutely no water shortage whatsoever in our area. He can dig down 4 feet and hit the water table underneath his property.
Oh my.
Yeah, he was putting in these huge, massive posts. They're like railroad ties, kind of. Not the metal ties, but the wood railroad ties. And so he was drilling down with a big like power drill on the back of a bobcat kind of thing, and he went about a little bit less than 4 feet, and it was like straight up like a geyser coming out of the ground.
Wow. Does he have a well out there?
Yeah.
Some of those guys do.
Yeah, he's on water.
Wow.
He owns the water rights and everything.
That's nice.
Yeah. So
I would love to. That's like one of the things I would conspire to do is pay somebody to illegally sink a well on my property. I mean,
wouldn't that be nice?
Because out here, like, this is a wetlands. Like North Sparks
Yes.
is a wetlands, and
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure it would not go far. I don't know if it'd be 4 feet, but
yes.
that'd be one more check mark off the need somebody, need the government, need Tumwa for anything.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, northern Nevada is definitely not in need of water. We definitely have tons of it. It's just kind of a hush-hush thing or something, or
Well,
whatever.
it's already all been allocated. It's not that we don't
Right.
have water, it's that everybody owns it already. Because all the water in Nevada was divvied up many years ago.
Yeah.
So,
It'd be one to research too.
No.
yeah.
That's
I
why
think you are allowed to have a small well. I can't remember how much you're allowed to produce without getting water rights, but I think you can. I think by owning land, you have a small water or subsurface water right. But it's been a long time since I ever did any research on that. So
See,
don't
I
quote
thought the one thing I read in that regard is somewhere I read my property ends 12 feet below the dirt, basically. I
no.
don't know where that number came from, but that's what I've heard. And I was like, 12 feet. That'd be a pretty awesome well if I could sink it 12 feet and have enough water to make it worth my while, and have it last.
Right.
And who am I going to pay to do this? And how do I get the backhoe back there? And yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
You guys ready for the short of the week?
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and go into the short doc of the week.
Keeping it short and snappy, a quick look and conversation on a few short subject docs.
Okay, so for our short documentary of this week, we are on Vimeo once again, and the documentary is called Frozen Ceiling. And a quick description of it, the goal of this short... Well, first, did you guys think when you first started watching this, did you guys think he was scuba diving or holding his breath?
Holding his breath.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I just had it in my mind that you wouldn't be doing that unless if you were scuba diving. So
That it would be insane to do that without a scuba tank.
yeah. So like halfway through, I was like, wait a minute. There's no tanks and there's no bubbles. This guy's insane. So anyways, on with the description. To explain the simplicity of a breath hold and the deeper thoughts in the mind when pushing your body to such limits. And so, yeah, basically, this short documentary, it's like 5 minutes, 38 seconds, and I'm going to have to rely on you guys to explain the second half of this to me, because my internet decided to stop working at a normal speed. And so I only got about like halfway through, so I don't know if he dies at the end or not.
He didn't die. Somebody did, I think, because they do a tribute to somebody.
Oh, really? Like maybe one of the cameramen or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. Mike Wong.
Oh, okay.
Like Wong the furry.
Well, I think
Yeah.
on the description, I think it says, "Thank you for keeping all of our divers safe." So I think everybody of the cinematographers made it through, the film guys. And this is up in Canada. I mean, there are some beautiful shots. The cinematography is gorgeous on this. You're going over these massive lakes that are or part of the oceans, I don't know, that are completely frozen over in Canada, and you've got this deranged dude that's out there well, I actually liked the scenes with him and the axe. It was kind of nice. Reminded me of work with me and my sledgehammer and such. And yeah, and then you realize that he's sitting there jumping into these lakes of frozen ice and just basically swimming around holding his breath. And yeah, I wonder what it was like for the cameraman, man, because what was his buddy at the beginning was talking about, like how crazy he was, and he's never seen the guy literally like feel or look cold.
Yeah, I thought of that too. The cameraman, what are they wearing? Like, they obviously better have scuba gear on and heated suits or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking, it reminded me in one of a scene from Rocket Man. If you see that movie, obviously I know I've seen it.
Yeah.
He's when he goes to kill himself
Yeah.
in the pool.
Yeah.
So we watched an interview with Taron Egerton, and how he talks about that was one of the scariest things he's ever done.
Oh, really?
Because it was only like a 12-foot deep pool, but he was weighted, and so he was kept down at the bottom. And like the first few scenes, he couldn't do more than like 5 seconds before he was like screaming, giving the signals for oxygen to be brought to him. And gradually he got more and more comfortable. But, all these people that are outside of the camera, you can't tell,
Right.
are watching him underwater with scuba gear. And he's just floating there, trying to mouth sing a song, and
Right.
afraid he's going to die in a pool on
You got-
video. But, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got this guy.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever... Go ahead, Sean.
I was just this guy's down there, and he's walking on the ice upside down, and
Right.
yeah. I wouldn't be more than a couple inches away from the hole. If I got up the courage to go and do this, I would be right next to the hole, just so I could be like, okay, I'm done.
Right.
Face back
Yeah.
up.
Well, it wasn't, and that's the thing that she talks about, like the breath hold. This wasn't just holding your breath. Like this was hypothermia holding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're in water that should kill you, and you're just dancing around, doing a little jig, holding your breath. Like that's like double whammy. I mean, that's not just diving down deep and holding your breath.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would wonder what that would do to you. Like cold combined with the pressure, combined with not breathing. I think that's suspended animation last time I checked.
This guy's going to live forever, dude. That's my guess.
Yeah.
I think he's going to push the limit too far and die. That's my guess.
Yeah.
It's one or
One
the
day
other.
He's gonna panic and go, "Where the hell's the hole?
Yeah.
Where's the hole?"
Right. There'll be one or the other. He either lives
He'll
forever
die.
because of this, or it's going to kill him off quick.
Yeah, but it was gorgeous. Like the cinematography and the underwater scenes were really cool.
Yeah.
Have you guys done any kind of scuba diving? I know this isn't scuba diving, but...
I've snorkeled once in Catalina,
Oh.
and then in Antigua on our honeymoon. I snorkeled there a lot. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah,
So-
I've done some snorkeling, but no scuba, nothing like this for sure.
Yeah, straight out of high school, when I was a young, healthy buck, I did scuba diving, and part of the last dive that you do is up at Tahoe, and Tahoe's known for it being cold, not like this, where it's frozen over, several inches thick, but at Tahoe, it was very interesting because with lakes, you'll have these temperature shelves, and at Tahoe it's typically at right at about 40 feet below, where there's a very dramatic temperature change in the water. So you can be at 39 feet deep, and you're fine and comfortable. But if you put your hand down another foot lower, into the 40-foot mark, your hand starts freezing immediately. There's this very specific temperature shelf in the water. And yeah, it was kind of a trip. I mean, you can definitely feel it at Tahoe. I've never experienced it when I went diving out in the ocean, because I've never really gone that deep. But at Tahoe, it's right there at 40 feet typically. And so I was wondering about with this one, because of being an ice lake, because he was going down fairly deep at some parts, and I was wondering, is he experiencing those temperature shelves, or is this lake just so freaking cold that it doesn't even matter? It's just all super freaking cold. But that's definitely a very unusual experience when you're diving, especially up at Tahoe, is that temperature shelf. So yeah, I recommend this one if anybody's interested in watching this one.
Yeah, very well done.
Yeah, and it's very beautiful. Just to watch it is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and the music as well. It's well fitting, I felt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go ahead and go on to the breakdown.
Prepare to be spoiled. In the breakdown section, our co-hosts go deeper into the conversation and truly express their thoughts on the documentaries.
let's go ahead and start with you, Sean. Sustainable.
All right, my pick was Sustainable by Matt Wexler. 96 minutes on Netflix. So the synopsis is an investigation of the economic and environmental instability of America's food system. From the agricultural issues we face, soil loss, water depletion, climate change, and pesticide use down to the community of leaders who are determined to fix it. So this was, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I picked this because, we interviewed Matt Wexler, and it had been on my list since then, since we did the interview for Right to Harm, which was really well put together. After watching this, I regretted that I hadn't watched this prior to that interview, just because the two really go together really well.
Yeah, they do.
But it's very thorough look at kind of how we grow things right now and how unsustainable we grow things, and kind of methods to improve that. That really the way we do things doesn't help us. We can get the same yield by doing things in a much more organic, biologically focused method. I like the one guy that said, right now we develop our food based on chemistry instead of biology. We should really be looking at biology because it's, a living thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, they follow basically this one farmer.
Marty.
Yeah. At Spence Farms, which he has a really cool story. His family had owned that farm for 100 years.
Yep.
And then they went broke and grandma decided to sell it. Mm-hmm. And then a corporate farmer came in and farmed it for a while and basically destroyed the farm. They didn't keep up any of the barns or anything, and the fields were no longer producing very well.
Yeah.
And so they came in and bought it back, and him and his son they started harvesting the wild ramps that were growing on the field. And if you guys ever had ramps?
So it is pronounced ramps? I couldn't figure it out.
Ramps.
I didn't know if he was saying yams, but I was like, those don't look like yams.
They're ramps. They're basically a cross between an onion and a leek.
Okay.
And garlic, kind of all in there together. But they really good flavor. It's like a sweet garlicky onion.
Oh, okay.
And the more gourmet restaurants are really, into these more exotic natural foods. And so one of the cool things they go into in this, they interviewed Dan Barber and Rick Bayless. In the culinary world, those guys are kind of, especially in the farm to fork area, those guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
Dan Barber's, there's a couple different documentaries with Dan Barber, what he does at I think Blue Hill Farms, is that right? Blue Hill Farms is and they just, the things he does are just amazing. But I really like that Marty started selling these ramps, and then the chefs were like, well, what else can you get for us? Well, what else do you want?
Right.
And so he just started researching organic seeds and heirloom seeds and what he could grow, and he has this really sustainable method of growing local food for the restaurants, and seems to be really working well for him. At one point they talk about he's making about $2,200 an acre off of his farm, as opposed to the corporate farms that are getting about $300 to $400 an acre.
Yeah. His son was crazy. Yeah, his son was talking about that while he was driving through the cornfields.
Yeah,
because the corporate America, they switch in between the corn and soy, talking about how when the crops are good and awesome, the farmers complain about it because the price is so low that they're getting per acre.
Mm-hmm.
But when the price is good, the fields don't produce as much. Typical basic economics. But when everybody else is growing corn at the same time you are, you're going to have that issue, of course. But yeah, I love that little part that they had in there with his son's a great little guy too. What was his name? Marty's son? Did anybody write that down?
Will?
Yeah, Will.
Will?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a smart dude, and I'm glad that he took interest in the farm and continuing it on. Because his thing, he really liked doing actually I got kind of pissed off. He liked doing the maple syrup.
Yeah.
So I actually sent Marty Travis an email because we do pancakes every Saturday morning. And so I asked to see if I could get some of his maple syrup, and he said he was out of stock, so he pissed me off. I don't like you, Marty.
That's not really a time of year for maple syrup.
That's exactly what he said, Sean. I don't care. I live in corporate America. It should be on the shelves every week.
The problem with local sustainable food is that it's seasonal, so you can only get it when it's in season.
That's why it's going to fail in America.
Yeah, it's one of the funny things Steph always talks about. She does seasonal. We have a co-op here in town where they do the Great Basin Food Co-op, where it's kind of the same idea that they do that they show in this movie, where basically the farmers bring in what's in season,
right.
And then they work together to figure out what's in demand, and then the co-op works with the restaurants to keep them stocked. And when Steph was a exec chef, people would come in and say, "Oh, I really wanted your asparagus dish." And she'd be, "Well, yeah, asparagus is in the spring.
Right.
This is the fall."
I can give you pumpkin pie.
Yeah, you could get some asparagus from Mexico maybe, but you're not going to get any from us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Steph really enjoyed this doc too. This is kind of one of the things that we've been kind of preaching for a long time,
right.
that the methods that we use to cook are really, or to grow food right now, are what's killing us. And we probably wouldn't have the obesity problems that we have and everything else if we weren't growing corn in order to make high fructose corn syrup, in order to make, so on and so forth.
Right. So do you and Steph think that full-on sustainable farming is possible here in Reno? Like in Reno? Yeah, in the high Sierra Nevada desert.
Yeah, you're not going to eat, the same food that you eat right now, but right. Yeah, they're absolutely sustainable.
Okay.
There's farmers here in the local area that are doing some amazing things, really.
Okay.
There's hydroponics. There's all kinds of different foods that are available here that are our farmers are doing a good job.
Right. In today's age and technology, yes, I think it's very doable.
There was one farm that I actually got the pleasure of going on a tour with Steph to, mm-hmm. where they are doing aqua farming, where they're actually using fish to fertilize the plants that are growing the food that they're selling to market. So the fish, they don't sell the fish, but they use the fish in order to make the farm work.
Yeah.
And they have these massive greenhouses and everything else, but really cool farm when we went and looked at it. But that's just down the road.
Is that it? I mean, is that in the vein of, the CAFOs though? Like how they spray the dookie all over the fields? I mean, just different dookie?
No, this is the fish actually make the food grow, make stuff grow.
Yeah.
Like it's almost hydroponics, but they work together at the same. So it's not taking the fertilizer from the fish and spraying it on the plants. The plants actually grow in the water that the fish are living in.
Yeah, it's like a biodome.
Yeah, it's like biodome, exactly. Without Pauly Shore.
Pauly Shore, yeah.
I learned a lot from Pauly Shore.
Yeah. I mean, I'd seen this before. We watched it, I think even before that. The one we watched with the director, we'd seen. I think Sarah brought this one up. She heard it on one of her podcasts. I think I can't remember. Maybe it might have been the Hollis, Rachel and Dave Hollis. But yeah, it was really. I really liked it. I think it was really well done. I think it's really encouraging because, like I said, I'd watched it before, so seeing it now, 6 months later. It was really encouraging to remember, this is possible, but it's going to take a concerted effort. Just like it took a concerted effort for us to decide in the 50s and 60s that this sort of, industrialized farming, agricultural stuff was the way to go. And okay, we thought it was the new hotness, and it was, and then it isn't anymore because we're getting smarter, thankfully, in certain areas, and we're learning from our mistakes. And we just got to get the money, I think, pointed somehow in the right direction. I don't know how the money, because this is, as much as I'd like this to be the way we live, until there's money in it for enough people, I don't know how it's going to be able to win the battle.
Well, and the difficult balance too is this guy's making $2,200 an acre off of his field because he's selling to gourmet restaurants in Chicago.
Right.
Exactly. I thought that he's not selling to mom and pop that are making dinner every night.
Exactly. McDonald's is not going to be buying anything from him anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I was wondering. I was like, okay, and I'm glad you brought up the Great Basin because I'll check into that. It's definitely a type of place we would like to shop. I just, we pay enough for organic groceries, but we have a concerted effort in our family to do that, and we have the means to do it. Which I jokingly tell the missus, if something happened to her, or if she lost her job, the kids would meet Chef Boyardee pretty quick.
You wouldn't be a 1%er anymore. Ah, so sad.
Yeah. I have to get down here in the slums.
Down here with me, living in my trailer at the river.
drinking Costco wine.
Kids, HB's moving in.
So, but I mean, that's the problem. I mean, organic food is so we in our family we ate so much organic food that our local grocery store here, which is a chain,
Yes.
gave us an award for buying the most fruit and vegetable department. We had the highest fruit and vegetable receipt in the calendar year last year for the whole damn store.
Oh my gosh, dude. You are a 1%er, man. You just proved it.
And it's us and 2 kids, but it's not that we eat like quantities. That's the problem. We just eat organic.
Yeah.
And like you look at organic anything versus the non-organic equivalent, it's easily twice the price, sometimes more. And it's nuts. It is absolutely insane. The gouge, it hits you, and it's like, we're gonna eat this. No, we're eating it. We paid. It's $5 for a little handful of berries. We're eating them.
Wow.
So that's the part that's frustrating. I mean, they call it whole paycheck for a reason. I mean, Whole Foods is not the way we can live. It's not going to happen.
And the shame of it too is a lot of the times they call it local organic, and it's not all that local, and it's not all that organic.
Yeah.
So what's the definition of local to you guys and your wife? Since how far would she go and still be able to call it local?
So they. In the restaurant biz, usually it's, I want to say within 100 miles is considered local. I still, and what a lot of the farmers locally are trying to push is that local should mean the same watershed. So basically, the Truckee Meadows is local.
Right.
Not necessarily California, because California's within 100 miles.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But that's a totally different watershed. That's totally different.
Same mountain range.
Can you really call that local? Yeah, it's the same rain. It's just falling on the other side of the mountain.
Right. Yeah.
Loco. That's interesting. I like that attitude. I think it makes sense. I mean, we definitely have concern in our area about the whole Fallon area. We went from like loving it to scared that we're going to get mammograms and cancer.
Right.
Yeah,
which is sad because I still think they have great farms out there. They didn't put the stuff in the soil or the air or whatever you want to, however it got there from all the naval stuff.
Right.
So
good old Top Gun.
Yeah. Go Tom Cruise. God bless Tom Cruise. Please save me.
Well, there were some other interesting stats that they had in here, like corporate farming is the second producer of global warming. It's just like.
Yeah, is that the cow poop and the farting?
I think that stat's wrong. I think they're actually the number one producer of global warming.
Oh, so you think they're even worse?
Because they also produce all of the trucking that goes along with it.
Oh yeah.
All of the, all the tractors, all of that should be factored into there.
And they probably
I don't know
are
that
not.
It really is.
No.
So I think actually they're probably the number one producer of greenhouse gases.
It's farms. Yes, corporate farming.
It's corporate farming.
Yeah.
So we can all drive big old Hemis and get 5 miles per gallon, and we're still getting beaten out by something that we're eating.
Yep.
Yeah, not going to make any difference.
Pollution.
Whatsoever.
So I don't have to go buy the Tesla Cybertruck.
But you got to look at it.
Jeez.
that's disturbing. That literally something that's being the industry that feeds us is the most polluting.
Right.
And I think the interesting thing they pointed out too is that the pesticides are killing the bacteria in the soil.
Right.
And the bacteria is what actually pulls the carbon out of the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are they producing all of these greenhouse gases,
they're killing.
They're also making it
Mm-hmm.
impossible to pull the carbon back out of the atmosphere.
Right.
Yeah, that was so basic, like his illustration, and it made sense. And it went down to the explanation down and later when he's like, if a weed or something takes over, it's probably because it's doing something that the soil needs or the area needs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's putting something back in or it's taking an excess of something else out. And you might just want to let it go for a little bit.
Yeah.
It is self-correcting because that was incredibly simple. Plant this and it sucks that nutrient out of the air and uses it to enrich the soil and yada yada yada. Where the world's taking care of itself.
Yeah, because they said that the best thing for switching out crops was the purple clover, or is it just clover in general? Or
I think it's just clover in general.
yeah, so I think they were saying purple clover, but yeah, clover, and then
Well, that's because purple clover is actually it's an ingredient. It's used for things as a just random clover,
like the clover I throw in my front yard.
right.
Right.
That's gotta have crazy bees though, right? And clover, isn't that have some pretty good flower?
Yeah.
The bees love that stuff.
So then
Which
you
I
start
guess
to
is
bee
good
farm.
for the farm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and we had those Indian fire pokers. I know that's kind of a derogatory, or not derogatory, but racial terms for the flowers. You know what those things are called?
No idea.
Please do expand on this racial plant.
Racial plant. They're called fire pokers, I believe. They have that big, huge flower at the top, and it's like it goes from like a red tip, and it like fades down into like an orange and then a yellow.
You're talking about like paintbrush? There's one I call paintbrush, or my mom called paintbrush.
Well, I don't know. Maybe some racist people told me it's called Indian fire pokers, but
It's a natural one that we have out here in the.
yeah, no,
the
we had them
wild,
all
or-
over our yard, but they were like, they really tracked the bees around here. Because up here, there's got to be a couple of people that have beehives that they keep, and our yard would just be humming with bees.
Well,
Yeah, you'd walk by.
Do you
and
have-
You could like.
do you have
feel
wasps though?
It. No.
Do bees keep wasps out? Do they protect the turf? That's something I've always wondered because I
Oh,
have
yeah.
wasps and hate them.
We really don't have. I've had like one little wasp nest, but that's been it.
Oh god, I have 'em every year. I hate them.
Really.
Oh yeah.
I'd much rather deal with bumblebees and
Oh yeah.
feel like I'm helping the world and have some honey maybe.
Yeah.
For sure. The wasps are demons on wings.
Yes, they
Oh
are.
yeah.
Well, we even have those tarantula ones here. What are they called? The tarantula hawk wasps.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that one. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
They have like the second worst sting in all of creation.
and they fly.
Yeah, they sting the back of a tarantula, and then they lay their eggs inside the actual tarantulas. That's how they that's how they reproduce. Is by
That's...
injecting them into tarantulas. So
Went a little off topic.
yes,
Yeah, a little bit
kind
there.
of.
It's a different form of sustainability, but
I like the Amish dude that was like, we don't need sustainability. We need regeneration. We need to go beyond sustainable right now. We have problems.
Right. Yeah, that is definitely a good point. So his community, Marty, Travis, are they? I got the feeling that they're like Mennonites. They weren't Amish, but
Oh, no, the other guy was Amish. I didn't think Marty was.
mm-mm.
I didn't get that feeling from Marty.
He was emailing and cell phone. And...
well, I
Yeah.
think Mennonites can't they? I thought Mennonites were like Amish, but add electricity. I don't
Got
know.
me on that.
Yeah, I didn't take that from him. I just, he's driving into the city and dealing with the Satan's folk.
Well,
Then, if that's the
yeah,
case.
but he was in that group, and in that group, when they would have their like group meetings to figure out like who has what crops and who could provide potatoes for,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a co-op.
right. Well, those women, they're wearing the garb of like Mennonites. Like they all had the long hair that was all done up in a bun, and then they would all had long dresses, like to the ground
Hmm.
dresses.
You're not the blonde chick who could like bench press me.
No, like all the women in that meeting were that way.
Uh,
I did not get that impression.
All right, well,
yeah, I think you need to put your hood back on.
whatever, dude. Go cut down your Indian pokers.
No, I didn't. I thought they were just dorky farm folk. Like
Yeah,
nothing,
that's
nothing
where I was.
special.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I
right.
mean, I really wonder how much of her profits that one chick's eating into, though. I'm like, dang, you are a bear of a woman. Like, whatever you're eating, it's working, and it's dang, like not rock solid. Go you.
no.
Because everybody else is pretty thin and like wiry. That's
Yeah.
like working and on the field and in the farm and eating a lot of fresh veggies and whatnot. But I don't know. I can't remember what she grew. I remember she had a full farm, but
Yeah.
good stuff.
This did have a greatest moment. Did you guys catch it?
I was listening for it. No.
When Marty was talking about his son, he said, "Probably the greatest joy I have is knowing that I get to spend every day with him."
Oh, how nice.
So there was a greatest moment.
Very lovely.
Yeah, I was trying.
That's something a Mennonite would say.
But a Mennonite would have like 10 kids, right?
Well, maybe they had birth issues or something. I don't know. I'm going to find out. And I'm going to prove you people wrong.
You're going to research people in Iowa.
Right? In this cult.
This is where American Pickers is from,
Yeah.
Yeah. To close my opinion out, yeah, I feel like this is required, and I think it's required because it's important, I think, for people to realize what we should be doing and why what we're doing now is not going to work forever. I don't think. I think something does have to change. So I think this is required.
Yeah, I agree. This is a required. I think everybody is blind. They just, they walk in the grocery store and all their stuff is there, and they don't know where it comes from. And I think if people knew, you link this with right to harm, people are going to change. If they had to see this stuff, they would call for change.
Yeah. I would have. Yeah, I was going to make this a required watching as well, too, until Marty decided that he didn't want to give me any syrup. So I regret this.
No, it's a regret. Straight to regret. I like it.
I want my syrup, Marty. Oh, and also I learned that one cow's shit equals 20 people's shit. So that's good news for you, HB, and your drinking habits of shit-filled wine.
Yeah. I'll never run dry.
As long as we have the cattle around, HB will be happy with his wine.
Yeah. Keep the vines growing.
All right. We'll go ahead and go into my dog. HB, let's go to yours. Matt.
All right. Well, mine. I guess it was a similar vein, similar group of farmers. Mine was NASCAR 3D, the IMAX experience. It was on Prime. It's not very long. It's only 48 minutes. It came out in '06. It was originally released, I guess, in '04, but I think it hit the big screen in '06. And let's see, the description of this one is an IMAX documentary film released in March 2004. Distributed by Warner Brothers. It was the first IMAX film distributed by Warner Brothers. It's narrated by Kiefer Sutherland and provides an overview of the origins, evolution, and current state up until 2004 of American NASCAR. It explains how the sport works, from rules, to aerodynamics, various tasks the teams take on to prepare for each race weekend, and the risks NASCAR drivers experience during every race. So this follows, it comes out in the beginning is really fun. I thought it kind of reminded me of Cars 3, I believe. It shows the historical running from the popo, running the moonshine type footage, which I really think is fun, even though, fortunately, I haven't yet had to explain that to my boys. I watched this one with my 7-year-old because he's a big NASCAR budding fan.
That was Cars 2, man.
And was it Cars 2 where they go out and
No, it's 3.
No, it's 3 where he meets what's her name and he meets Smokey.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Never mind.
2's the special agent.
Yeah, 2's the lame one. 2 sucks.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I forgot 2 existed. Yeah, that one is lame.
Yeah.
My bad. I tried to.
So
use it from
anyway, yeah. So this is it. It can come across at times once it gets into it as a little like I don't know, super documentary-ish. Like it's very polished. It's very educational at times, but the footage. So like I asked everybody last week to try and watch it on something bigger than a handheld device.
Yeah.
we watched it on the biggest screen we had in our house and turned the sound way up. And so there's some race scenes, cockpit scenes where you're in the race, you're in the car, you're on the cars that I thought were just super cool. And me and my son were just glued to it, just like feeling the rumble and the car sounds and all that stuff was just, I thought it was pretty cool. So, and then it had, going along with that, I thought the footage, like the way they were getting those footage, they had to have cameras mounted to these cars.
Yeah.
But I do think NASCAR funded this primarily based on the polish.
Yeah, this was, it's IMAX, so clearly it's superior quality film, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is, like you said, you got to watch it on the biggest screen you got and turn the sound way up and really experience it because it's really well put together. It's highly polished. Steph said it felt like one of those Disney movies when you go to like Disneyland and you sit and see one of the Disney films in the surround theater kind of experience. Was really how it was put together.
I thought it was crazy. Some of they show the back, behind the scenes in these, just like literally Joe Gibbs Racing, the size of their warehouse where they're working on like 36 cars is literally the size of a football field. Yeah, and it's enclosed. You can get tours, and it's just like a museum tour, but you're watching the live show of all these cars getting tinkered on and changed, and the amount of money. I mean, I knew there was a lot of money involved, but the amount of money and sponsorship and all these different things flowing through. I think he had 350 employees, is what one of the racing teams said, and just it is obscene the amount of money. I mean, it says in here it's the largest fan spectator sport in the country because of the size of these courses. I mean, they seat 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Those,
and they're always packed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love those those overshot scenes of these stadiums because it's like, the stands are completely packed, and then you have the RV sections, and who knows how many people are in each RV. And I learned that you have to buy a very specific RV to go to a NASCAR. You got to have that very flat top RV because
with a strong roof.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, what's the weight ratio? You get 3 big dudes and a few beer coolers and a barbecue and some umbrellas, and your RV collapses.
Yeah. Just love to see them going into the dealership trying to buy an RV. Well, what's the capacity? How many pounds will the roof hold? Got me and Uncle Pete and Uncle Vinny. We got to go NASCAR, and we're each about 300 pounds each. Is that going to hold us?
Does it come with an elevator to get us up there?
Right.
Yeah, you got to put the couch up on top too, because I got my lazy boy. So this one did have a greatest moment.
Yes, it did.
Oh, I missed it.
I got it.
So at 8:38 into the movie, they're talking about Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah.
And it says NASCAR lost its greatest driver,
Yeah.
Dale Earnhardt, when he died in 2001 at the Daytona 500. That was a pretty. So I listened, I listen to a podcast, and he's a big NASCAR announcer and reporter in his past, and they talk about just the cult that is Earnhardt.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable, but that the following that he has and the amount of money that he's generated, it's crazy. And also in that race was a crazy race because he is literally protecting his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., who ended up coming in second, who's obviously on Earnhardt Racing Team, to the guy who won the race, Mike Waltrip, who was also on Earnhardt Racing Team. Yep. And third place, he croaks because he, catches a fender or whatever it was. And yeah, that was a crazy race. I remember the news of it. I was in college, but I wasn't a NASCAR fan at all.
Was that like the last big name death in NASCAR?
I mean, that I know of. I mean, he was so revered. I mean, he was.
Right.
I think he would have retired soon after that, but
yeah,
nobody on the track, at least. I mean, they've had Joe Gibbs' son, who was one of his executives. He died recently. He had like an MS type disease, I believe, but he didn't race. He was a huge influence on NASCAR, but he didn't race. So I don't know of any racers that have died in horrific crashes, because that changed hugely the rules and aerodynamics of those cars. I mean, they already had the science down, but they changed even more. A lot of things that they added, because he died in a very specific way when he hit that wall at an angle. And that's when they weren't wearing some of the headgear that they have to wear now.
Yeah.
That like basically makes it so they can't move certain ways.
Right.
And it was no option, because I know some of the racers wouldn't wear certain things, and they didn't have the rules in place to say if you don't race. But now
right.
It is very strict. When you see these guys get out of the car, they have a lot to unstrap before they can move around.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, because like one of the worst types of motion for your neck in a car accident is the side to side whip. That's why like T-bone accidents are have a high fatality rate, because you get that left to right whip motion. And I wonder if that's what happened to him, and then that's when they started installing the sidebars to the to where the helmets were at. I didn't know that the specifications of the cars were so detailed, and that they were so scrutinized.
If you go back to Days of Thunder, that's why Tom Cruise could win, is because in formula racing, it's basically no holds barred. There's no restrictions. And you can borderline cheat. But NASCAR, everybody has to have the same car, minus the paint, same wheels, same tires, and really it's the driver and the team that decide who wins. Is what the argument.
Right.
Yeah, theoretically.
Which I think it makes it a cleaner race. The engine as well too, right? They don't have. Yeah. They obviously do their own engine though, right? That's the driver, the engine, and the team.
The engine still has very specific specs that it can't run above a certain horsepower, and there's certain things like there used to be a restrictor plate thing that they could restrict or maximize oxygen coming into the engine, and it's it's very strict, very strict. But I think personality has come out of these races now more than creativity on the car, because I mean the personality of the drivers is huge. I mean that's what drives a lot of the industry. I mean Earnhardt was the intimidator, and my son likes Joey Logano, who is sliced bread is what they call him. So and then the Busch family, Kurt and Kyle Busch, they're a couple of a-holes. but they win some races. Like Mr. Eminem, he wins some races, and he's got a supermodel arm candy wife, and they're from it's. I think it's very personality driven now.
And then the Petty family. I didn't realize they had been around from like the creation of NASCAR.
Yeah, I love that quote at the beginning of the film. Just
when was the first auto race?
Yeah, when they built the second car.
Right.
Yeah, that's basically my house. When was the first kid race? When the second kid could walk.
Yeah.
My favorite quote was when they were talking about coming in first or second, and the quote was, "Here to hobo and nothing flat."
Yeah, that is a good
one. One thing I'll say about NASCAR, and it shows they maximize it here with the flag, and they show, the flag ceremonies in the beginning, doing the national anthem. I don't think they played up what you would see if you watch the race also, is they do a prayer before every race as well. across the PA, just like they do the national anthem. Thank you, Jesus, and keep our drivers safe, and we love you, and God bless America, and yeehaw. But it's that's one thing. I started watching NASCAR with my son during last season and the season before in the NFL when Kaepernick just PO'd me to no end, about just lack of respect, overall for America and for the country that gave him the rights to be the punk that he is. But this, for a race that originated in Southern America, in the South of the United States, which ironically rebelled against the greater part of the U.S. This is one of the most American, we appreciate our rights, and hot damn, we're going to maximize our chances to have a good effing time. Mm-hmm. But we're gonna praise Jesus, and we're gonna salute the flag, and hot damn, let's get her done. I appreciate that a lot more than these pampered, a-hole athletes nowadays that don't respect their sport, and they don't respect the country that made their sport possible, let alone religion. That's my soapbox for NASCAR. But I give this a recommend. This one, it's a fun one, especially if you're into racing or just action films, or you have a kid that likes stuff like this. I think it's a super fun, well done doc. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a recommend for me. Yeah, it's definitely polished, and watch it all the way to the end. They show a lot of the IMAX cameras at the end and how they shot everything, which is kind of cool. So
yeah, I give it a recommend. It was nice, easy kickback watching. I ended up having to start it multiple times over from interruptions from family and kids and stuff. And well, part of the issue was I really wanted to listen to it loud, and I don't know if it was my setup and my speakers, but when the narrative was on, it was very low. So I would have to turn it up, and then when the races hit, I mean, it was extremely loud and clear sound, so it would like rumble my whole upstairs. And so Jen would come out, well, you gotta be watching it so loud. And it was like, well, freaking
it's America.
Give me a beer. Because Kiefer's being quiet, and the cars are not.
Kiefer won't shout like he does on 24.
Give me a beer. Get down.
Speak up, Kiefer. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, at the end he gets into it, and let's get ready to race or whatever, and he gets all excited, and then the IMAX part.
All right. We'll go ahead and go into our last doc, and that one is Tell Me Who I Am. I selected this one, and it was on Netflix, right? Or was it on Prime?
Yes.
Yeah, Netflix. And basically, it's a story of two twins in Britain, and one of the twins ends up having a motorcycle accident. He goes into a coma. He wakes up from the coma and doesn't remember anybody other than his twin brother. And so I've heard that some griping that maybe that isn't all that true. People from the medical field say that that the brain injury is so bad that he would have had to have had zero memory, and it was very uncommon for him to be able to remember just one specific person. But if you think about it, it's your twin brother. The guy looks exactly like you. So
there's a connection that they talk about. I don't know it, but
right.
Twins aren't standard even siblings.
Correct. Yeah. And so it is an interesting thing that has been brought up when you read the commentaries or quotes or but comments that people are leaving on threads and stuff is like that they don't believe everything that these brothers are saying because the medical field says that this would be extremely unordinary for him to forget everybody except for his twin brother. But anyways,
that's hilarious. I'm sorry, I gotta interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
That's hilarious because there are so many twins that have gotten amnesia in the history of medical science. How could anybody know?
Yes,
this is a one-off scenario that has never happened before and probably will never happen again. Yes. It's one of those rare things. So keep your medical knowledge to yourself.
Or lack thereof.
Right. Exactly. So the beginning, this is one of these documentaries where you know that there's stuff that's being held from you as the viewer of the documentary, and each half hour or chapter into the documentary, you learn a little bit more to spike your curiosity a little more of like, okay, what's really going on? Is this brother holding back on some of their story of what their life was like? Did something traumatic happen before the motorcycle accident? And so the documentary does really well at pulling on your strings, I feel, of trying to kind of tie you into this story, wind you into this story of that there's more than meets the eye of what the twin brother who remembers everything is giving the twin brother with the amnesia. And so to kind of clarify that, the twin brothers, their names are, I wrote it down.
Alex and Marcus.
Yeah, so Alex has the amnesia, and Marcus was the one that was basically feeding Alex his life story, or a fraction of the life story of what their lives were like before the motorcycle accident. So, like I said, the documentary continuously like feeds you into this, wait, there's more, kind of mentality of that there's a dark side of their life before the accident. And so you finally get to a point where you realize that, well, to kind of go back to learn a little bit more about their parents. So their mom, her name was Jill. She was born in 1931. She married twice and had 4 children altogether. So the twins actually have. So her first husband, she had the twins with, and that was with John Lewis. So the twins' dad is John Lewis, and then she remarried. So their dad actually died in a car crash weeks after they were born, and I don't think the documentary ever really went into that.
No.
Yeah, so they lost their biological dad shortly after they were born to a car crash, and then Jill Dudley, she remarried, and I know the documentary doesn't cover this, and she has 2 more children, Oliver and Amanda, to her second husband, Jack Dudley. And I wish the documentary would have brought this up, because it would, I think, give more questions to the viewer, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, totally. Because did they have any of these issues? Is it boys or girls? And
right.
Because they really portray her to be a Satan of sorts.
Right.
Yeah.
So you end up finding out that the brothers, they have, I don't know how many years together where Marcus has kind of been feeding the half-truth to Alex, and then their mother dies, and
It's 15 years. It's 15 years after the accident.
okay, so 15 years.
Marcus has basically been I don't know, feeding him a story.
Yeah, feeding him like half-truths.
Age 18 to 32-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of half-truths or just stories or whatever. And
Yeah.
then the mom dies, and then they start clearing out the house, and that's where some truths start to pop up in the house, where there's, you learn that the twin brothers were excluded to like a farmhouse that they had to sleep in. Like they weren't allowed to be in the upper part of the house, and
No keys.
yeah, no keys to the house. So you're like, okay, well, what's going on there? And so then after the mom dies, then they have full access to the house, and then they find out that there's like these hidden rooms and hidden closets and hidden, cupboards and stuff, and they end up finding a picture of the twins with their heads ripped off, and then they're naked. And so that creates this like moment of great anxiety and questioning from Alex, and that's where Marcus ends up coming out with the full truth of that mom was sexually abusing them throughout their childhood, and actually giving them out to other people to sexually abuse them as well too. So that's where everything goes sideways. And so this is the part of the documentary where I was like, I started to question the the truth of all of this documentary and how much of it was, was this another one of these documentaries where the whole thing was fake and that this was just some elaborate story that the brothers had created somehow. And so there's a moment in the documentary where the brothers have come back together, and Marcus has something that he has to get off of his chest of the totality of the child abuse and sexual abuse and such. And so did either of you guys feel that part was kind of fake or staged or anything when the brothers are facing off towards the end in the last part of the documentary?
I told Steph that I thought it was their therapist had worked this out ahead of time. I don't know that it was staged, the two of them sitting there, but
right.
I felt like it had been set up by their therapists.
Okay. HB, did you have anything on that one, or did you?
I mean, I thought it was kind of awkward how they would do that in front of obviously like a stage type set or a set for a show. But then, I figured it was pre-planned that at some point this was the goal, at least, of this, and that they were going to get to the crux of it, and that Marcus needed to tell Alex as much as he could about what happened. The part that before that, though, that got me was Alex making the jump based on a photo.
Yes.
And he says he sees the photo and he gets upset and gets emotional, which, okay, it was weird. It would be creepy. Obviously, you recognize your own body, but to jump straight from a naked picture, which could be innocent but weird enough,
right,
to go, did we get molested?
Right.
I was like, whoa, that's a leap, dude.
Right.
Like, a naked weird picture is one thing. You getting molested is a totally different field here. So that surprised me more than this. I thought maybe kind of like what you're saying, Sean, that the interview was staged in a sense that, look, you guys are going to break it down finally, and we're just going to do it on film.
So the truth of what I've been able to find out is that whole scene was actually completely staged. And these brothers actually came out with a book several years before the documentary, and that all this stuff is in the book. So that whole scene, that kind of conversation did kind of happen, but that whole scene in the documentary is completely staged.
It wasn't really the first time he heard what happened.
No, none of that. That whole thing was completely staged, which pisses me off kind of. Because it's a documentary. Yeah, it kind of does document the event. It's kind of like a what is it called in the documentary world?
Like a recreation.
Yeah, like a recreation.
One.
Yeah, like a recreation of what had happened, right? And that is what it is. But I don't like the fact that the documentarian or the film tries to lead you into thinking that this is actually happening right now, right then, in the documentary, the creating and filming of the documentary, right? Because it's kind of like it's misleading. I'd rather they do a reenactment as compared to trying to pull a fast one over you. Yeah,
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, well,
I thought it fit and it served the purpose. I mean, I was more wanting more. Like, I don't know if I'm just sick and twisted, but I'm sorry. I want more proof. I want more details. I mean, I was diddled and traded as a sex slave by my mother. I want details. I want to know what was done and what was done to us. And, that's the curiosity that I want to know. I want to know the down and dirty of it, and as much of it as you can possibly remember, so I can fully digest this and and process it. I mean, they barely touch on stuff she did with them under the covers, and then they allude to Dad not knowing anything, but then they talk about him asking for forgiveness, and Marcus won't give it to him. So I'm like, they never mention him being like abusive. Sounds like he was an a-hole, old school, like, of his day dad, about as sensitive as a rock. That sucked, but that wasn't anything to ask for forgiveness for. Like, was he in on the group sex action? then say it.
Right.
What's the point of protecting him? That's what I took that wasn't honest, that he was not part of it. What else would he need forgiveness for? So yeah, more details is definitely what I wanted out of this.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I saw a lot in the comments and stuff on websites was that people were questioning, like, why were they not going after these alleged famous artists that supposedly had sexually abused them as a kid? Because obviously Marcus knows who they are. So why are they not pursuing after those famous artists, or at least exposing them? And that's where a lot of people felt like the whole thing was fake. It's like, yeah, you guys bring this tidbit up of, famous artists or sexually molesting you, child molestation, but why are we not making this public so that we can oust them and bring more awareness to it? Apparently Skype has decided to stop running in the middle of our podcast. I apologize for this. Apparently Skype heard me bitching about them and decided to take vengeance on us by causing our podcast to suddenly stop. Again, we greatly apologize for this inconvenience. Hope you listen to next week's podcast.
Talks on Docs is a community podcast, meaning we want to get to know you and talk to you, the listeners. But to make that happen, we need you to first contact us. Please feel free to email us at talksondocs@gmail.com. Or if you prefer, contact us on Facebook at Talks on Docs or on Twitter at Talks on Docs.
Beautiful day in this neighborhood, beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be